Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me, to talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask
why.
why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the right?
Jerry Jones back acting very elitist, being a bit of a bully there. And, you know, I can make or break you. I can get you fired. You're not going to ask me these types of questions. Everybody's talked about this a lot yesterday. We got a little different spin on it. But, Steve, first, your reaction to what Jerry Jones said there.
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody out there. I have a question, Jason. Is he being a bully or a baby? I don't get this. I've spoken to you about this a lot. He's an owner that literally holds his own, not really impromptu press conferences after every game. He looks at himself not as just an owner, but as a football guy, right? So you are accountable for what happens. And I don't know, if you do a regular show during the football season on a sports talk format, what else are these guys supposed to ask you? You want to talk about the good with the bad and throwing out the dishwater? Well, I don't know. I would lose respect for the host if he would have never talked about the game and said, God, Jerry, that new sponsorship you got in the club level, what a great deal. And you know what? Parking's $300 for the premium spaces, but the walk is a lot shorter. Great. This is like bringing on the pilot of the Hindenburg and not talking about the landing. Or if you're going to bring on the captain of the Titanic and not bring on that little block of ice they ran into. I don't get it. Jason, he says, I am the GM. Every move is about me. Well, in football, the things that you do or don't do from February to about July will impact what you do from Labor Day weekend to theoretically, hopefully, to the first week of February. I don't get it. He needs to get over it. But this is why what he does is so dangerous. Because if those same guys, if the Cowboys were 6-0, would have said, Jerry, look at all those great moves you made in the offseason. Do you really think Jerry Jones would have said, now, guys, I just want to talk about what happened on Sunday. That's the offseason. I don't want to even talk. He's being a hypocrite, a baby, and a bully.
He's being all of those things. He's being what the system allows him to be. And that is human nature. We have a clearly broken media system. If ESPN is the worldwide leader, ESPN is a groupie for elites and athletes. They spend every waking moment worrying about their access to athletes and people in power, and there's a trickle-down effect of that. And so when I look at Jerry behaving the way that he's behaving, he's doing what's in, hey, I can get away with this. There was a time, believe it or not, despite being a billionaire and someone very powerful in Texas, he couldn't get away with this because, and some of this is like, you know, the newspaper industry and the mainstream media, it is a problem. But it used to be better. And so in the state of Texas and in Dallas, they had a columnist named Randy Galloway. And he was the big bad bully in Texas. And he would keep guys like Jerry Jones in line because he was powerful, working for I think he eventually worked for both newspapers, in the Fort Worth Star-Telegram and the Dallas Morning News. But he was the big bad guy that kept the billionaires that they were kind of fearful of. I don't want to get on the wrong side of Randy Galloway. The newspaper will start going after me. All of that has gone away. Everybody now, from the local newspapers to ESPN, everybody's a groupie, and they spend all their time worrying about access. And you know, quite people listening to this in a mature way will hear, well, Whitlock's really talking about himself. And to some degree I am. In Kansas City, I was the big bad guy that kept the billionaires and the millionaires in line and created the space for the radio hosts, the newspaper reporters, the beat reporters to actually do their job. Because if you mistreated one of these guys in a way that I didn't like, I would go after you, and no one wanted to deal with that. There is no system of checks and balances, so Jerry is allowed to be this type of bully, and it's disappointing. Steve, I'll let you follow in on that, and then I'm going to play a Shannon Sharp clip.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, our jobs with the media, and again, we're the comic book page of the newspaper or media. I get it. It's only games. But in theory, the journalists or broadcasters' jobs is to speak truth to power, not placate it. And you talk about access. You know, the most powerful way you can actually cover a sport or a team is to never have access because you're unfettered. I mean, the bottom line is the worst thing about access is you don't get the access, right? The worst thing is you end up needing it. See, it feeds you. And without them, now all of a sudden you're cut off from the power, the prestige. You need the quote, you need the one-on-one. And now that we're in a hits-based industry on YouTube or whatever platforms, now you need that big name. I see it in boxing all the time where you align yourself with a big-name fighter, and that fighter can get knocked out, and you still find ways to justify saying, well, you know, despite the 5 knockdowns and losing 9 rounds, that fight was kind of close. Why? Because you don't want to get turned down for that sit-down interview that you know is going to get you 100,000 hits. And Jason, we've all been involved, both of us, in sports talk radio. And we know that there's a reality towards it. To me, the best format for any sports talk station is to not be a broadcast partner of any team locally. Just be the voice of the fan. Because if you are now linked up, let's say in LA with the Lakers, Rams, Chargers, Dodgers, whoever, you know it and I know it. There is a reality when certain guests come on, we can't be the same type of journalist, or you're not really allowed to. And there's certain questions you're like, you know what? Let's not be too hard on Jeannie Buss. After all, we are the Lakers flagship station. And I've always thought, to me, the best sports talk radio were from markets or in markets where they don't actually tied at the hip with any franchise. They just shoot from the hip. But unfortunately, everything now is tied together.
So, Steve, let's go beyond sports talk, local sports talk radio. I'm telling you, ESPN legitimately is the worldwide leader in sports.
Yes.
They're just leading us straight to hell. And it just sounds like, oh, Whitlock's just mad. You know, he's not at ESPN anymore. He wishes he was mad. No, that's not what I'm pointing out. I'm pointing out that ESPN has changed the way local markets, the way everybody does business in the sports world. They're an access institution. And I'll just show you how it's all upside down. Before ESPN's total takeover and everybody started following the ESPN model, the opinion spewer was the most important person at a newspaper and in journalism because, again, he creates the room for everybody else to do journalism. ESPN has turned it upside down, particularly ESPN.com and the institution as a whole. Adam Schefter, Adrian Wojnarowski, and now Shams Charania. Those are the highest paid so-called journalists. I'm not putting Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee in that category. But the access journalists that give you the information that's been fed to them. They're paying these guys $8 and $9 million a year to protect their access so they can tweet out to you what transactions went on. That's the most important thing. It really doesn't have that much value, but they're paying for it like it's the most valuable thing in the world. And it's thrown everything out of whack. ESPN.com doesn't have a columnist. They don't have anybody writing opinion anymore. And go back to, in its heyday, Page 2, when Bill Simmons, myself, Ralph Wiley, Hunter S. Thompson, where people writing opinions were the face of ESPN.com and were the heartbeat of the journalistic institution. They've thrown that all away. I'm not trying to take it. I like Adam Schefter. I respect Adrian Wojnarowski. He's moved on. I certainly respect and like Shams Charania. But this whole system is out of whack, and it's all based on access. And are you close enough to kiss someone's butt so that when they fart out information, you can tweet it out? And we'll have that exclusively for 3 seconds. Help us grow the Fearless Army. Pound that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with all your fearless friends.